If you have been seeing these headlines, you might be confused if you are not familiar with the situation at Pakistan. Watch this to the end and you understand everything. So, on 22nd September 2025, which is the first day of the first parliament sitting after the general elections, Minister for Foreign Affairs Vivian Balakrishnan made a ministerial statement. It was a long ministerial statement, and long story short, this was what he said. At this moment, Singapore supports the two-state solution, whereby we have not formally recognized Pakistan as a state, but go with the idea that people in both Israel and Palestine live side by side in peace and security. However, Dr. Balakrishnan said in the ministerial statement that we will recognize Pakistan as a state when it has an effective government that accepts Israel's right to exist, and also categorically renounce terrorism should the situation in the Gaza war continues to deteriorate. Also, it's a matter of when Singapore will recognize Pakistan, not if. This is because Israel's actions are unconscionable, which means it's really not right, and Singapore condemns the killing of innocent civilians. In addition, Singapore will also impose targeted sanctions on the leaders of radical right-wing settler groups or organizations responsible for acts of violence against Palestinians in the West Bank. Sanctions are basically banning trade. The reason for this? Because Israel has built new settlements in the West Bank that conducted acts of violence there. If the situation continues to deteriorate, or if Israel takes further steps to extinguish a two-state solution, Singapore will reconsider its position on recognizing a Palestinian state. Now, if you are confused, you need to know some history. I'm sure you have already known about the situation in Gaza. However, if you have not been following the news, you might not know that Israel has escalated the attacks on Gaza. On 20 August, Israel announced that they are going to seize control of Gaza City, which was the most populous city before the war. In mid-September, it was reported that they have conducted a ground assault in the city, declaring that Gaza is burning. The war, which started since October 2023, has led to over 60,000 deaths in the Gaza Strip. A third of them are children. These escalations have led to many countries condemning Israel's actions. This is why recently, countries like Britain, Canada, Australia, France, and some other countries have just recognized a Palestinian state, with more countries following suit soon. It's to apply pressure on Israel, which opposes a Palestinian state. And yes, this is why Singapore will also recognize the state when the conditions are right. Because prior to this, a majority of member states at the United Nations General Assembly, just like Singapore, supported the two-state solution, but they have now changed their position due to Israel's actions. But that's not all that Israel has done. In case you are not aware, over in Israel, Palestinians live in two regions, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. While the war is technically on the Gaza Strip, there has been some fighting in the West Bank too. However, for that, it's a little hard to understand. Simply put, Israelis will set up settlements in the West Bank, which is not legal based on international laws, although Israel disputes that. These Israeli settlements have conducted some acts of violence, but that escalated since the Gaza war broke out. Now, this is why Singapore is making targeted sanctions. It's against the leaders of these settlements or people who conducted the acts of violence. In the meantime, Singapore will support the Palestinians so they can eventually have their own state, and we will continue our humanitarian aid and medical support for Gaza, and will continue to engage both the Palestinian Authority and Israel. You see, both countries must adhere to international humanitarian law. Israel must stop their indiscriminate attacks and allow humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, while Palestine must reject Hamas completely. Prime Minister Lawrence Wong also added in a Facebook post that we as Singaporeans must not allow events abroad to divide us here in Singapore. Let us stay united as one people and together do our part to build peace both in Singapore and beyond our shores. There are more details, so I have left a link of Dr. Balakrishnan's full speech in the description. You might want to follow us on Instagram for any latest updates, as we post exclusive short videos there. Link in description. Also, watch this video so you know more about current affairs. And thank you for spending almost 4 minutes with me. I really appreciate it and hope you learned something.